In light of everything, we'll get our evening started. So, welcome to the launch of the Caribbean Commerce Magazine. I'm Esther Fills, Director of Operations and Distribution for CCM. So, my role this evening is to represent CCM by being your host. And I'm so totally honored to be standing here doing this. I'm going to lay out the structure of our event and navigate us through providing you with all the information you'll need to know to get to know us. We have quite a bit to share with you, and it'll place all the emphasis on what our mission is, which is our core purpose is to provide reliable information about Caribbean business opportunities for investors and buyers worldwide, and to help stimulate the growth in our established and emerging markets. You'll be introduced to the CCM team to hear about why we are on this journey, why we're so passionate about what we're doing and in bringing new technologies to the Caribbean, starting here in Jamaica, and understand why it's so important for us to have more of a voice on the global economic platforms, and why we must look deeper for synergies in working closer with our brother and sister islands of the Caribbean to become that economic force that is fully recognized globally. This evening, you will also hear from some of the stars that we wrote about in CCM magazine. They will provide you with their overview on the great initiatives that they've embarked on in order to benefit Jamaica's economy. After all is said, we will have a Q&A session which will address your questions and comments and so on and so forth. So with that said, thanks again for coming out. Totally appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. And I would love to now introduce you to Oswald Fills.
Hello. I'm Oswald Fills. I'm the editor-in-chief of Caribbean Commerce Magazine. I have it all written out here, what I'm going to say. But I wanted to share with you one interesting thing that happened to me as we landed at the airport yesterday. I had a kind of rush of emotion that I feel when I'm returning to my country of birth. But I'm not Jamaican. Thanks for coming out to our launch. And, some people told me that Jamaica is the kind of place that can capture you and make you want to come back. And I'm a testimony that it's true. I haven't been to the Caribbean for a number of years, and in this 1 year, I've been here twice already, in July and now. So something is bringing me back. My first contact with Jamaican culture was in the 70s. How many people remember the 70s here? Yeah. It was a very powerful time for Jamaican music. And one of we're living in Canada, and one of our friends, his name was Fitzroy. And Fitzroy spoke about two things: his love of Jamaica and his love of reggae music. And he spoke about those two things with incredible passion. And I didn't really understand that until years later, when reggae, of course, blew up big time as a global music. And Jamaica itself, over the last few years, blew up as a brand recognized around the world. So my friend Fitz, he knew something way back then. So that's why I feel so good, actually, being here in this very charismatic country that always punches above its weight. Now, while living in Canada, I was exposed to a lot of people from the Caribbean. Of course, Jamaicans and Barbadians, Guyanese, Haitians, Cubans, Grenadians, St. Lucians, Vincentians. All these people were really alive to me, even though we were living in Canada. We were living in Montreal, Quebec. Now, I think that one of the reasons why the Caribbean was so alive for me still there was because of our multicultural beliefs in Canada. We believe in multiculturalism, or we did at a certain point. Now, as editor-in-chief of Caribbean Commerce, my job, I guess, one of my roles, will be to reveal many aspects of Caribbean people, you know, and I'm especially interested in people who are game changers, people who change the way things are done, change the way we think about ourselves, change the way we think about our countries, think about, change the way we're perceived in the world. And as I was being driven up here to the Pegasus, we passed by this gold building down there, and at the top of it was a helipad. You guys know about that place? Well, it's one of the buildings, I believe, that belongs to Michael E. Chin, a billionaire who is a Jamaican, a son of Jamaica, a huge success for Jamaica, and he's also a huge success for Canada. Of course, he made a lot of investments up there, and he really set the standard for a kind of entrepreneurial drive. And while I'm living in Canada, I often pass by something called the Royal Ontario Museum. And Michael E. Chin made a donation of a whole wing of that. It's called the Michael E. Chin Crystal, which is a whole new wing onto the Royal Ontario Museum. So to see his work there and to come down here and see his buildings here, it kind of inspired me as to what can be done. And one of our magazine's goals is to harness that capacity for successful thinking and acting. We're interested in who will be the next Michael E. Chin. We want to be able to, in a certain sense, empower people to think like that. We want to empower people to make a culture of success almost viral. Another game changer that I'm interested in are two women whose names are Portia Simpson Miller and Kamala Persad Besisar. Kind of hard to pronounce that one. And I'm interested in them because as women, they're now heads of state. They're heads of two Caribbean states. And I'm very curious about what their effects are going to be in the years coming, especially effects on young women and the way young women perceive themselves, right? And further, I'm interested in what effect they will have globally, in terms of women rising in politics. Will women be able to redefine how capitalism is deployed in the world as the number one economic strategy we have going right now? Will there be a reinterpretation of what that could be? Another thing that I'm interested in as editor-in-chief is thinking outside the box. That'll be part of our brand. Thinking outside the box, trying to do things in a different way. Quite often, we get stuck in old patterns. We get stuck in old patterns. We roll our wheels. The mud is flying up. We're getting dirty. We're not getting anywhere, and we're still doing it. Thinking outside the box tries to break that apart. For example, people now accept that global warming is a fact of life. And you've just experienced Hurricane Sandy. You've got a taste of what happens when global warming impacts upon naturally occurring events. So now, how can we bring new thinking to global warming? How can we bring something like, for example, biofuels into the discussion about how we should fuel our world? Caribbean Commerce will be bringing in ideas like that. Another thing that we're interested in is the evolving world around us, specifically politically. The American elections have just passed, and Barack took out Mitt Romney. I'm sure you were all looking at that keenly. As people of African heritage, you know, we felt a lot of pride in that. I felt a lot, incredible pride in that. And one of the things Obama did was he was keenly alive to the present moment. He was keenly alive to the present moment. He didn't have, you know, theories. He researched it. You know, he got the numbers. He got the facts. And because he had those, he was able to leverage enduring values, new technologies, and statistical methods to become a two-term president. In a sense, I want Caribbean Commerce Magazine to be always alert and alive to the moment, responding to the moment. Now, these are just a couple of issues that we want to open up in our magazine. And starting with Jamaica as our place of launch and spreading out over the rest of the Caribbean, we want to function under a flag of a threefold approach. And here are the three parts of our approach. We will feature in our magazine the business and cultural life of the Caribbean on an application form, on an app, a computer application, and on mobile platforms. 2, we want to be a hub for private and public sector business connections. 3, we want to function as an ad agency producing high quality marketing solutions for our clients. Now, we're very, very ambitious and very proud as people from the Caribbean, but we also think globally. I call it local roots with global reach. We think business, but we also think business synergies. We think personal success, but we also think community development. We think growth, but also sustainability. This is our DNA. This is the stuff we're made of. So I just want to welcome you to Caribbean Commerce Magazine. Thank you for coming to bear witness. Can I have a witness? To the birth of a new venture. We hope you bring more life to this venture by partnering with us if you can, and advertising with us if you can. And I thank you again very much, and enjoy the rest of the evening.